Welcome back. Here in this video, we're gonna continue talking about the influence of trade policies upon income distribution. Okay? Here, we're gonna take a quick look at a real-world example, which is about the U.S. Sugar industry. Okay? Now, here, this chart shows us the annual wholesale sugar prices US versus world from 1980 to 2015. Okay, so the dark blue one on the top is for the US domestic sugar price, and the light blue one at the bottom here is the world sugar price, or the price on the global market. Okay, and you would find that there are some ups and downs, and we also find that the U.S. and the global prices are kind of correlated. Okay, so they move towards the same direction, hand by hand, for most of the time. Okay, but here we really want to drive your attention to this gap between the US domestic price and the global one. Okay, and for that reason we show you this average price over this period of time. Okay, so here we're looking at about 36 years, right? So for the US domestic sugar price, the average during this period of time is 29.2 cents per pound. Okay, but on the global market, during the same period, the average price is only 14.9%. In other words, you find that the global price is approximately 50% of the US domestic price. Okay, now this chart here I got from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, shows us what's happening, more recently. Okay, and because remember the previous one, the ending year is 2015, right? So if we want to know, if this gap between the U.S. and world price has been reducing probably in the past few years or not. Okay, so let's look at this. And here we use different ways to show you this gap. But simply speaking, you can look at this red one, which is a US refined canned sugar price. Okay, and overall, from 2018 to September 2021, we find it fluctuates around 40 cents per pound. Okay, 40 cents per pound. But on the global market, you find the price for most of the time during this period stays below 20 cents per pound. Okay, again, the gap between these two prices is about 100% of the global price. Right? So the gap, doesn't become smaller, okay, in recent years. So here, two questions we would like to raise. The first one is, what happens if U.S. opens its door to global sugar trade? Okay, now we find that domestically on the U.S. market it's more expensive to buy sugar. Then why not just open our door and buy it from global market? Okay, so what kind of graphical analysis we could do? On the worksheet, I believe it's a second question, right, on the worksheet, and you're supposed to use relative demand, relative supply graph to figure out the answer here. Okay, basically we're gonna look at how the relative price will change because of trade, and who are going to be the winners and who are going to be the losers. Okay, that's about the distribution of income. So bring your thoughts to class, and we're going to discuss this one. Okay. The second question I want to raise is, how could U.S. achieve such a high domestic price? Right? It looks like the U.S. domestic market and global market are sort of isolated from each other, right? And how? So here we're going to talk about very important trade policy tool. It's called import quota. Quota means maximum, right? So import quota means the maximum amount of sugar, in this case, that can be imported from global market. Okay. And question number 3 on the worksheet gives us a hands-on experience, a chance to look at how this import quota works and how it affects supply, demand, equilibrium, quantity, and price. Okay, and even the winners and losers we discussed, for the previous question. Okay. Now, because of this trade policy, import quota, we find that the U.S. domestic sugar price is higher than global one. So here, let's look at the cost and benefit. Okay, so how much cost do we pay for such a the import quota policy? Okay, is that worth doing it? Okay. Now, several statistics we would like to show you. The first one is the cost to all American consumers is $2 billion per year. In other words, because the U.S. domestic price is higher, because we pay like 20 more cents per pound. So throughout the year, if we multiply by the number of pounds all American consumers combined purchased, so the total cost we pay, or I should say the extra cost we pay for sugar is $2 billion. Okay, so that's a lot of money. And consumer cost per job saved is $826,000 per year, which is 30 times the average pay of those workers. Now here we look at the consumer cost per job saved because these sugarcane farmers often lobby the government and said that you guys have to protect us, okay, because we create a lot of jobs. So if we open to the global market and import a lot of sugar, then we're going to lose a lot of jobs. Okay. Now here we show you these statistics found in the literature, like to save these jobs, how much money we actually pay. Okay. So here is cost per job saved. Especially when we compare it with the actual pay those sugarcane workers received. Okay. Now, another interesting statistics we would like to discuss is in the U.S., actually 17 sugarcane farms generate more than 50% of the profit of the whole industry. Okay, think about what does this mean and how this affects our discussion about income distribution. Okay, especially winners and losers. Okay? Now, in general, U.S. farm subsidy database, which I can share with you during our class meeting. Okay, so here, the example is just the sugar industry, but it goes far beyond the sugar. Okay, so we actually have a massive, quota and subsidies on agricultural products. Okay, so in this database, you should be able to see some of these statistics. Okay, about how much we subsidize these agricultural products. Now, here I want to ask you guys, does this really make sense? Okay, like we spend this much money protecting jobs, okay, and helping the farmers. If your answer is negative, you don't believe it makes sense, then the next question we're gonna do is, why is it still existing? In other words, over these years, why we fail to remove these import quota or subsidies. Okay. Once again, bring your thoughts to class, and we're gonna discuss. Okay. Now, why the trade protectionism is so prevailing? As we said, this is a question we need to um, think, okay, because it significantly affects our trade policies. Okay. Now, to be able to understand the trade protectionism, one theory we would like to introduce is called the free rider theory. Okay, this is relatively easy for us to understand, especially when you think about your own group project experience, right? You always find someone is kind of free rider, right? They missed all the group meetings. They did not really do the share of the work they're supposed to do, and finally he or she actually received the same grade the rest of the groups received. Okay, so you may complain, you may think this doesn't make sense, right? Now these guys who did not really do their work, it's called a free rider. Okay, now free rider theory tells us what matters is the size of the groups of interest involved. Okay, what this means is the smaller the group, the better they organized. Okay, or you could say the closer relationship they maintain with each other. Okay, now here let's look at the farmers parade in France. Okay, and we know that in Europe there are a lot of farmers. They get together, really well organized, and lobbying the government so that the public policy could be in their favor. Okay, so look at their parade here. It's just like the military parade, right? All of these tractors lined up, moving ahead slowly, protesting, and asking the government protection. So again, they are really well organized. Okay, and they are also really willing to spend money lobbying government. Look at this donation the U.S. presidential candidates received from farmers. Okay, the former President Donald Trump received about $5.4 million, and Joe Biden, the current president, received $2.9 million. Okay, this is data about 2020. Okay, so here the sugar trade protection costs each American consumers only $7 per year. Okay, in other words, here it's actually you could say a fight between farmers and the rest of Americans, okay, who are the sugar consumers. Okay, you would find that for farmers, their question is actually leave or life or death, right? But for the rest of the for the American consumers, we have probably more than 330 million American consumers, okay, purchasing sugars regularly, and they only pay $7 more per year. Okay, so you can think about why the consumers do not have the incentive to get organized.